Hello there, I'm Floyd Norman, avid film freak, movie lover, bit of a filmmaker myself, spent my career working at the Walt Disney Studios, making mainly animated films. But today, I'd like to share some of, and I mean just some of, my favorite films because there are so many. When I start to work on an animated film, it's really not that different from a live action film. So all of these films are inspiration. I remember when I was asked by Walt Disney to work on the film Jungle Book, an assignment that came unexpected. I hadn't planned to work on the film, The Jungle Book, back in 1966, but a certain gentleman changed my mind. But I remembered back when I was a small child and my parents had taken me to see The Jungle Book by the Korda brothers, Alexander and Zoltan Korda. And I remember watching that film as a child and being so influenced by it, the magic. It was something magical about the jungle, something terrifying, of course, with Shere Khan the tiger and Kaa the snake. And I remember that cavern filled with gold, and the way it sparkled and brilliant Technicolor. And speaking of the Jungle Book, the version by Alexander and Zoltan Korda, that film starred an actor named Sabu. And when I saw this film, I had never even heard of this actor, but I was soon to see him in other films, such as The Thief of Baghdad and a number of others. He even did a film, I believe, at the Walt Disney Studios in the 1960s. He appeared in a film for us. So, The Great Sabu, something you should check out. The Hidden Fortress probably inspired another filmmaker, George Lucas, and Star Wars got a good deal of inspiration from this film, The Hidden Fortress by Kurosawa. Great motion picture. I was really anxious to see Rebecca. I had seen all of Hitchcock's films in the 50s and 60s, but this film came out a little earlier and I hadn't seen it and I had no way to see it. Well, believe it or not, I found a most unusual way to watch Rebecca. A friend of mine, an animator, literally had a 35 millimeter projector in his apartment. That sounds insane. This is a projector that you would have in a motion picture theater, but he had a 35 millimeter projector in his apartment, literally in his apartment. And he had a print of Rebecca, and I was able to see this masterpiece in his home. And never thought I would view the film in that manner, but great film. Good pal, Spike Lee, great filmmaker. Spike really, he was a guerrilla filmmaker and making films back when it was really difficult for African-American filmmakers to get a shot. And so Spike made his first film, She's Gotta Have It. And he followed that with School Days. And then by the time he got around to doing this particular film, Spike was at the top of his game, and great performance by Denzel Washington. This one happens to be a favorite of my wife, Adrian. I hadn't seen My Man Godfrey, starring William Powell. Film that's a lot of fun, but has a social message as well. What I would call such a tight film. It's not long at all. It tells its story, tells it well, and then the film ends. As films should do. When you've told your story, done. So, that's some of my picks. There are so many others. I love motion pictures. I grew up going to the movies when I was a kid. Could never get enough of them, and I just knew even when I was in middle school that one day I would be going to Hollywood and working in the film industry. And I'll never forget when I arrived at the Walt Disney Studio way back in the 1950s, I walked onto my first soundstage, stage 2 at the Disney Studio. And when I walked onto that stage, I realized that I had come home. This is where I wanted to spend my life, because on that big empty stage called a soundstage, magic happens. That stage can be anything, anywhere, and that's what I love about movies. That's what I love about these movies. Thank you very much.